How are we to live our Christian lives well? Tonight on EWTN Live, I will be talking with the Bishop of Lourdes in France about the many lessons on Christian living that the apparitions of Lourdes teach us. So please stay with us. Hello and welcome. I'm Father Joseph Mary, chaplain here at EWTN, filling in on EWTN Live for Father Mitch Pacwa, who is away. And I'm especially happy to do so tonight since we have the Bishop of Tarbes and Lourdes in France, whose own life and vocation were impacted by his pilgrimage to Lourdes as a teenager. He will be speaking tonight about the many lessons we can learn from this shrine, where some 4 million pilgrims travel each year. So please welcome our guest, His Excellency, Bishop Nicolas Brouwet. Welcome, Bishop. Bishop, you were telling me yesterday how the shrine at Lourdes impacted your own life and your own vocation as a teenager. Why don't you tell us your own personal story, how the shrine impacted you?
Yes, when I was a teenager, I went to Lourdes with my grandparents yearly for a little pilgrimage, 3 or 4 days. And it strengthened my faith because, you know, when you are a teenager, you are a little bit alone as a Christian. A few of my friends went for Mass on Sunday. Mm-hmm. But in Lourdes, I discovered a lot of people praying, serving, praising the Lord. And it was very impressive for me to see adults, rich and poor, and young people praying together.
So among your own friends, you didn't have many that were practicing the faith.
Yes.
But here you were, and you saw all of these people, young and old, different nationalities,
yes,
who were enthusiastic in praying.
I made an experience of the church, of the Catholic Church, and it gave sense to my faith to realize that we were a lot. When you are in a church, as in Lourdes, with 10,000 Christians,
yes,
praying together, it's incredible and very important for the faith.
So that's a very different experience for most people. When you go to Lourdes, you see thousands of people enthusiastic about their faith.
Yes, yes.
And so that can't but help but have an impact on your own faith and strengthening it.
Yes, because you see people praying with humility, with very deeply, you know. And so it was, for me, a testimony.
Yes. You called Lourdes a school of life for young people especially, and I guess that would be one of the ways that you see the universality of the Church. And what would be some other lessons that you think young people especially learn at Lourdes?
I think that in Lourdes, you know, you have a lot of sick coming in Lourdes. And when you are in the shrine, you live with them. You are with them, you serve them, you talk with them. It is very important because we are aiding the sick, you know. But in Lourdes, you live with them. Mm. And so you realize that you are here to serve the poor. It could give sense to your life, to your entire life. I think that the young people can discover in Lourdes the sense of the life, because we pray and we serve the poor and the sick. So the life is made to be given. Our life is made to praise God and to serve the others. And a lot of young people is looking for its vocation, you know, and they can find their vocation here, because it's like we are in the center of the life, of the sense of the life.
I remember my own trip there as a chaplain, and it was wonderful to see the young people from Steubenville that were studying in Austria at their campus there, and they came down to volunteer to help our group. I had gone there with the North American Lourdes volunteers, and so there was a group of people who had different abilities of different sorts.
Yes.
And one of the people that was along on the trip was a priest who actually died a few months later. He was advanced in age and he had difficulty getting around. But I remember what a blessing that was to me personally, to be assisting him at Mass, to be there in the procession of the sick, pushing his wheelchair, that we need to, we receive much more when we give, don't we?
Yes, it is a very fine experience. You are there, you come in Lourdes, and you say to yourself, I will help the sick. But after 2 days, you realize that you are helped by the sick.
Right.
Because you pray with them, you talk with them, and when you talk to a sick person, you don't talk about the weather, you know. you talk about very deep things.
Yes.
And sometimes you talk with them on subjects that you don't talk without your family or your friends. It is a very good time to have such conversation and such deep conversation, yes.
That among our friends, we often can talk about superficial things like the weather or the sports, but the sick, in their suffering, it focuses them on what's really important, doesn't it? And our conversations with them are quite different.
Yes. And we make the experience that we can pray the one for the other, you know. We can support them in our prayer, and they support us in their prayer. It is a very good experience of communion in the faith. You know.
That we benefit also from their prayers, from their offering of their sufferings, that the Church benefits.
That's true, yes.
From that, although it's not really appreciated in our modern culture that looks what can you contribute, you know. But it's missing that whole spiritual dynamic.
Yes.
That prayer and suffering united is a powerful prayer.
That is the communion of the saints that we confess in the Credo. And
So at Lourdes you find suffering, but you don't find despair. Father Regis, who's accompanying you, he's one of the chaplains there at Lourdes, he said you find mountains of suffering, but Himalayas of love. Maybe you could talk about that, how there's suffering there, but it's different from those who may just despair of life, because you find hope and joy, and you find great love that is brought out of others through that suffering.
Yes, that's true. In Lourdes, the very beautiful experience is that the sick and handicapped persons and all persons, they have the first place. They have the first place, and they are loved and they are served by the others. And I think that for them it's very important to feel the love of the brothers and sisters who are there. So, and we pray. We are close to the Lord
Yes.
And for them it is an experience of hope, very, very deep. A lot of them come from hospital or clinics where they are alone, and there in Lourdes we are together, we are in communion. And I think that you can be renewed in your faith at the contact of God, at the contact of brothers and sisters.
That was one of the things that impressed me when I was at Lourdes, is that the wheelchairs go first.
Yes.
That they are always first in everything.
Always first, yes.
And that Lourdes is a place, as one person said, where you are, it's maybe one of the last places on earth where you are loved not for what you do, but by the fact that you exist.
Yes.
And that you have a dignity given you by God.
Yes, a dignity, yes. It is a very good vision of the church, you know. A lot of people have a vision of the church as a pyramid, as a big administration with the Pope at the top, you know.
Yes.
But in place like Lourdes, you can have another vision. God at the center, and the poor and the sick at the first place, and the other Christians praying with them and serving them. I think it's a real vision, you know, of the church. We discover what the church is. Not a big pyramid, you know.
Right.
But to be close to God and to serve each other and to be in communion in the faith around the Lord.
That's a beautiful vision of the church, and I think that's something our present Holy Father, Pope Francis, is trying to bring across to us, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure, yes.
You know, John and Claudia Elson, John you met yesterday, he works in our acquisitions, getting programs from outside of EWTN to air on EWTN. And he and Claudia had traveled to Lourdes to act as volunteers. And they came back very enthusiastic about how wonderful that experience was, working with the sick, helping them in the baths and so on. But they also went there with an intention, and they were childless at that point, and so they were asking God to bless them with a child. And now they have little Joseph, who I like to think is named after me. But but why don't you talk about the army, really, of volunteers who come there? They don't receive any recompense except what charity gives them, and how that really helps the shrine to continue.
Yes, it's incredible because we have thousands and thousands of volunteers who are coming in Lourdes, and they come back year after years just to serve. That's why I said it's very. It gives sense to our life to serve and to be there free, just free, available for the others. Yes, we center us in our own life, you know, and that's really great. And we have a lot of young people coming to serve in hospitality, you know, as volunteers. Well, the challenge for us is to accompany the young people, because they are not there for a humanitarian reason, you know, but just as a brother or as a sister to serve other brothers and to serve other sisters.
So it teaches us really how to be more human, that we live in a very technological age. We're all very much in a hurry to get here and there. And what this does is it kind of slows us down to remember that our life is about self-giving. It's not just what can I receive and what can be given to me, but it's in giving of ourselves that we then discover the meaning of our lives.
Yes, and discover the face of Christ in each person we meet.
Mm-hmm.
Sick, poor, handicapped.
Yes.
To discover the face of Christ.
Yes.
And it's for young people, they arrive in Lourdes with a humanitarian reason, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but they can leave Lourdes as a real Christian because they made this experience to discover Christ.
Hmm.
That's, for me, it's the most important in Lourdes, that you encounter the Lord.
I remember when I was there and I was waiting to go into the baths, there was a young man about 30 years old from Australia. And so I'd asked him, I said, now what brings you to Lourdes every year to volunteer here? And so he told me about his own mother who had been suffering very seriously with cancer in Australia. And she was determined she was going to come to Lourdes, and her doctors were all advising against it because they said it would be too painful and too difficult for her to make the trip. But she was determined she was going to make that trip, and he said it was a very difficult trip, very painful. But she arrived at Lourdes, she went to the baths, and although the cancer did not leave, it was like in remission, and she had no more pain. And she lived 5 more years. She'd only been given a couple of months to live.
Oh, yeah.
And so she enjoyed her family and so on. And so out of gratitude, he goes there every year now to serve there. And I think that's the story of a lot of volunteers too. It's out of gratitude.
Oh, that's great, yes, yes.
Mhm.
You're right, yes.
Now, a lot of people have heard about the floods there in Lourdes, and we know that it's caused a lot of devastation. How is the recovery efforts? How are those coming?
Yes, you know, so Lourdes is at the foot of the mountains, and we had together melting snow in June and a storm, so that the water level became very high and destroyed a lot of things in our shrine. But well, now we have to repair everything. You know, we have a pilgrimage season between Easter and All Saints, and so we can repair everything just during the winter, because when the pilgrims are in the shrine, you can't do it. It's too crowded, you know.
Yes.
So we cleaned up everything after the floods. 400 volunteers came to help us. It was really incredible.
So 400 volunteers just showed up and wanted to help.
They came free 2 days after to help us to clean the shrine from the mud, from the water and the mud. And well, it was a really great experience of solidarity and hope, because we had a little temptation to despair, because we had flood in last October too, you know. So twice in a year it's a little bit difficult for us. But when you see 400 people coming to help you, so you let the hope come back, you know. And so you begin to work. And so one week after the floods, we could open the shrine to the pilgrims. And so
1 week later, just 1 week later, you were opening it up to pilgrims already.
Yes, and I would like to profit from this time, to this emission, to thank all the people who supported us, because we receive a lot of letters, a lot of prayers, a lot of donations too, to help us to rebuild the shrine. And it was incredible, because I think we have a family of Lourdes all over the world. And a lot of people thank and pray for us.
And even Pope Francis, right?
Yes, he wrote us,
Mhm.
Pope Francis, and he wrote a very beautiful letter, and he gave a donation too. So it was really, well,
And if
wonderful.
people still wanted to help with that relief efforts, if they go to the Lourdes website, you have there a button where they can have solidarity for
Yes.
the flood,
Yes,
and they can contribute or
yes.
and help with the continued recovery efforts, which will
Mm.
take place this winter. As you said, during the pilgrimage season, there's a lot of pilgrims there. You can't be doing a lot of the restoration,
Yes.
so that'll take place after November 1st.
Yes, we have about $8 million of work.
You need
to-
about $8
yes,
million
to
do
repair.
the work.
So we have
Mhm.
already a lot of donations, but well.
Mhm.
if
Father
you-
Regis mentioned a significance to the mud, and Bernadette, how she took mud and didn't she rub mud on her face, and there's kind of a symbolism to sin and how sin disfigures the soul, the image of God in us. But then you have a miraculous spring which points toward baptism and the cleansing of sin that Christ wants to give us.
Yes, it's very curious because Mary made a spring appear in the grotto, and Bernadette was looking for the water, but at the beginning it was not water; it was earth with water, so mud,
Mud.
and she began to put mud on her face because she was trying to drink.
To drink,
the
as Our
water.
Lady had
Yes.
told her.
Yes,
Mhm.
and then bit by bit, she finds the clear water, and it's like a modern parable for our case, for our life,
Mhm.
that we have sinned. We are sinner, but the mercy of God is greater than our sin.
Yes.
And I think when you come in Lourdes, you come to do this experience. You are a sinner, but you do this experience of the mercy of God, of God's love. We encourage all the pilgrims to confess,
Mhm.
to receive the sacrament of penance,
Yes.
to make this experience of receiving God's love through the sacrament of penance. Mary said to Bernadette, pray for the sinners, do penance for them.
Mhm.
And we try to counter this message, because a lot of people arrive in the shrine with a lot of things on the shoulders, you know.
Yes.
For example, I know people who comes in Lourdes from Paris, direct from Paris, with a plane with a morning plane. They
Yes.
confess in Lourdes, and they turn back to Paris with the evening plane. It's we have, I don't know, about 30 priests confessing all day long during the pilgrimage season. It's very beautiful.
So we need that interior cleansing, and Lourdes is a place of that interior cleansing and healing
Yes.
with the confessors that are there, some 30 confessors that are there.
Yes.
So people come there, they're carrying burdens, they have maybe the weight of sins on their conscience, but they can come to Lourdes and they can experience the Lord's mercy, His cleansing, and His healing.
Yes. You know, the water, the spring in the grotto, it is not a magical water, you know.
Right, it's not
But
magic water.
Yes, magic water, yes. But it is a sign of Christ, and who gave us the true life, who gave us the salvation, and that's why the spring, the water, when you drink to the water, when you wash in the water, it's like a preparation to the sacraments, you know.
Yes.
You are renewed in your in the baptism, but you prepare yourself to communion and to penance,
Christ.
to reconciliation, and that's wow.
So Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who thirst," right?
Yes.
And so the water is a symbol that He's the one that quenches our thirst. And so this is like the beginning when you go to the baths. And I remember they have the sheets there as you go into the baths with a little bit of a teaching. And it concludes by saying, you should go to confession, you should make the way of the cross, the stations of the cross, and receive Holy Communion. So really what the baths and the water is directed toward communion with Christ.
Yes.
Yes.
And the opposite is true. Remember on the cross, Christ says, I thirst. And this spring is like a call for everybody, because Christ thirsts of all love. And Mary says to Bernadette, say to the priest to come in procession, say to the church to come in procession. And I think that people are attracted by Mary to drink at the source, at the spring, because Christ thirsts of all love. And so we make the experience of God's love, but we can find the all love for Christ.
I thought that was an interesting point you mentioned earlier today, how Lourdes is a unique place where Our Lady asked that processions would come, and how you see a whole procession from all these countries and continents of the whole world, and they're coming there to encounter Christ.
Yes, because, we have about 4 million pilgrims coming in Lourdes every year. For me, it's incredible, because Lourdes is not a big center,
Yes.
You have, I think, 15,000 inhabitants. It's a little village at the foot of the mountains.
Yes.
It's very hard to go there. And you think, but what is the reason? Why does the people come in this little village? I think there is not a natural reason, but a supernatural reason,
Right.
because Mary calls
She
them.
calls them to her Son, to encounter her Son.
Yes.
Mother Angelica made a pilgrimage there herself back in 2003, and I know you had the opportunity to see her yesterday and to give her your blessing. And she went there, and she was praying, and she also was inspired. She has kind of a funny story that happened while she was there, that some of the people thought that she was Sister Lucia from Fatima. And in fact, one of the sisters was telling me that some of the people that were there were saying, "Are you a Sister Lucia?" And she said, "No." And they said, "You're lying. We can see it in your eyes." But she wasn't, of course. But of course, many people also recognized Mother and told her how much they appreciated her work, because it reaches the whole world, and they know Mother Angelica. But at the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament, our shrine here, where Mother and the sisters live, they also have a replica of the Grotto of Lourdes. Did you have a chance to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
In many countries, we see Grotto of Lourdes, and that's why I'm there in USA too, to visit the parishes and communities connected with Lourdes. And so in USA, but you have such grotto all over the world. It's because of the French priests and French missionaries, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a sign of the big family of Lourdes, and the sign of devotion from people to the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Yes.
It's very impressive for me to discover, like yesterday, just close to the monastery.
Yes.
Like we are just as if we are in Lourdes, you know.
Yes.
And, wow.
They tried to replicate it as close as possible from the original, and
Yes.
there's also a river that runs
Yes.
right next to the grotto in Hansville as well.
You know, the grotto is like the sign of those apparitions of Mary in Lourdes. For me, it's like if the heaven touches the earth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When you are in the grotto in Lourdes, you think about it. Mary appeared here, and God loves us. God is close to His people, to the humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to think about that. So we are loved from God, and He is very, very near. Very next to us.
Yes.
And the grotto is a sign of this proximity, you know. Well,
I like the image too that where the grotto was a dump, and now, so it was kind of a cursed ground, if you will, and we can think of the book of Genesis, but now that's been reversed, that there's this living water, this life-giving water that comes, that's bringing healing and reconciliation.
yes.
To so many people. Well, we're in needing to take a break here. We're enjoying our conversation here with Bishop Brouwet from Lourdes in France. And please stay with us in this. After the break, we're going to be taking some questions from our studio audience. Thank you. Once again, I'm Father Joseph Mary, filling in for Father Mitch, who is away. And we have Bishop Brouwet, the Bishop of Tarbes and Lourdes in France, who's been talking about Lourdes and the significance for our own living out of our Christian life. And we're very happy to have a couple of groups here, one from Canada and also another group from Delaware. And we also have some pilgrims from California and Mississippi and other states here in the United States. So we're going to take some of their questions here in the studio audience. First, what is your name and where are you from?
My name is Maria Johnson, and I'm from Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. First of all, I'd like to mention my father had a spiritual healing at Lourdes. He was bathing in the waters. Because it was very cold, he kept his clothes on, but when he came out of the water, he was completely dry. And it brought about a great healing for him and our family, actually. But the question I had was, the floods of Lourdes made me wonder if perhaps, did you have a premonition that this might be coming, or is there any kind of spiritual implication in maybe the cleaning of Europe or the area I was just wondering if there was more of a worldwide dimension to this rather than just having, a weather condition.
Do you see any spiritual significance in these floods?
For us, the significance is first to count on providence, to let God conduct us ourselves, to let God guide the shrine, and because we can count ourselves and on the money, and so it's for us. Is the first significance is to think that Mary is the mother of the shrine, and Mary is with us, and so we can let her conduct ourselves, and then we can count on the family of Lourdes, the solidarity. Yes. That's for me the best significance.
So it's God's place.
It's God's place.
It's God's place. He's going to provide.
Yes, it's God who founded this shrine.
Yes.
And it is not the man to do that. So you have to. We have to do our parts, but we have to remember that it is God's project.
And when we think about these different tragedies that happen with different natural disasters, that it can draw great charity and solidarity out of our hearts.
Yes.
Yes.
It is incredible, and yes, that's the first result of this floods. Yes.
Very good. So, what is your name, and what is where are you from? And
I'm from the Diocese of Wilmington, Delaware, and my name is Mary Christine Arenas Cruz. I go by Chrissy.
Okay.
I was born the day after Christmas, and I have a couple of Lourdes connections. In Baguio City, Philippines, it's a mountain resort, and some people go there for their honeymoon. My parents went there for their honeymoon, and the miracle there was I was conceived in that town. And as a teenager, I also went to Lourdes, and it's so beautiful, the snow-capped Pyrenees Mountains, and what's more beautiful is the love of the Lord emanating from the townspeople. I went one night, and it was in December, so it was a quiet time. There were no baths or anything. And I went before the grotto, and I had an interior brief conversation with Mary. I was depressed as a teenager, and I asked her, will I find motivation? And her response that I heard was, yes, but not now. And I've spent a good deal of my life, even since a child, volunteering for the church and secular world. And as an adult, I became a parish secretary for a Catholic church, and now I'm a secretary of Christian formation. And I thank God for all the hardships and trials that I've been through, because it's made me who I am today.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And a lot of people who go there, they don't experience a physical healing, but they experience interior healing. That's a lot of those go unreported. Isn't that true?
Yes, it is true that people speak a lot about the miracles, physical miracles, but the physical miracles are, like in the gospel, the sign of the salvation, the sign of God's providence. The sign of a lot of spiritual miracles inside the people, in their hearts. It's incredible to see how many people were strengthened in their faith in Lourdes.
You were telling me before the show here about a father and son who had were both disabled, and how going to the baths they didn't experience a physical healing, but you could see on their faces a joy and a hope that was alive in them.
Yes, and they converted me because I was as a priest in the hospital, like a chaplain, for a week for a pilgrimage, and they wanted to. So the son was born disabled. And the father was a truck driver, had an accident. And so he was handicapped too. And they came together in Lourdes for the pilgrimage. And all day long they had a very they rejoice, you know.
Yes.
They were very happy in their face. And they wanted to go to the masses. And I didn't want, because I thought I was not.
It wasn't necessary for you to go.
Yes, it wasn't
You thought
necessary.
they could go to the baths
Yes.
because they had the handicaps, but
Yes, and so they went to the masses, and they came back very joyful. And I say to me, but I have to go because they have
they have the faith.
They have faith. They are full of faith, and me not. So I went to the bath because of them, you know.
Right.
And that's incredible how the sick can help us
Minister
in our
to
faith.
us. Teach us.
And the miracle was in my heart.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, we have another question. What is your name and where are you from?
Christine Healy from Port Colborne in Ontario. And I was wondering, you have lots of pilgrims that come to Lourdes. Are your parishes filled with the parishioners?
How is the parish life there? Are you seeing the vitality and the faith of the local people? Or are you having similar struggles as they have in much of Europe, where a lot of people are indifferent to the faith in your own diocese?
Well, in the shrine, a lot of people come because they are Christian. They are very, very strong in faith. But you have a lot of people coming because they are just tourists. They are traveling in the mountains, and in the guidebook they read that there is something there in Lourdes. So we have to help the good, the strong Christians, but we have to help those who come in Lourdes without knowing what happens there.
Yes.
And a lot of them, they don't know how to make the sign of the cross, or they don't know the Our Father prayer, you know. So we have to do the both thing, to encourage those who come for pilgrimage.
Yes.
And to welcome the tourists.
Right.
So we are able to expand them. What happened in the shrine, why it is so crowded, and how to pray. It's a very, very good experience. I do it sometimes. I see a family. I see that they don't see. They don't know how to do in the shrine.
Yes.
And I speak with them, and I guide them to the house of Bernadette and to the cachot where she was living at the time of the apparitions. And so we can speak, and just spending 1 hour with them, we can introduce them in the shrine. Well, it's evangelization, you know.
Right.
Just welcoming the people who is coming here, and be with them, and just explain them what happened in the shrine.
Beautiful. We have another question. What is your name and where are
My
you from?
name is Manuela Wright, and I am from Milford, Delaware, the parish of St. John the Apostle. In 1982, my husband was stationed in Spain, and we had 2 small children, and we were going through some tough spiritual problem. And I had a spiritual director who was a missionary at the Consolata, and he suggested, why don't I take you to Lourdes? So in this little Fiat, 5 of us went over the Pyrenees to Lourdes. And the experience was, I cannot describe the experience. There is something truly spiritual there. And after we got back, my husband and I became very involved in our faith and in our church. But what I would like to ask you is, not only in Lourdes, but at Fatima, even Medjugorje, you see loads and loads of pilgrims that are going. And like you said, some of them are just tourists. Is it because knowing that the Blessed Mother, that the Mother of Jesus, even for those who do not probably believe much, that actually she appeared, is there something that's drawing people there, especially those whose faith is weak, to try to see if they can find something that will help them spiritually to grow?
I think you had mentioned something about that, how Mary is drawing people there, come in procession from all over the world, and they may not even know why they are there. They may be there just as tourists, but God always has a plan for each of us, doesn't He?
Yes, I think we need sanctuaries like Lourdes or Fatima or everywhere you have a sanctuary. It's like a place for resourcing himself. It's like a
An
place.
oasis.
Yes, we need parishes.
Yes.
We need dioceses, but we need a place where it is people can come to pray more, as to resource themselves,
Yes.
like for like a retreat, spiritual
Yes.
retreat. We need that. We need pilgrimages. So strong times, strong days, to help us in our faith. It is a little bit different as the Sunday in the parish,
Right.
And
So you come out of your normal workaday world and you come up to a place where maybe you don't have the pressures and responsibilities you
Yes.
had, and you can focus more on the spiritual life.
yes. For example, confession. When a priest in his parish organizes a confession, sometimes he has nobody coming because he has time, but the people doesn't have time.
Right.
And you have people who wants to go to confess, so they ring to the rectory, but the priest doesn't have time to confess,
Yes.
In a sanctuary like Lourdes, everybody has time, the priest and the people,
Yes.
and it is organized for that, so that we have time to confess, because we have just that to do in the day. Wow.
Yes.
So I can, as another sort of organization,
Yes.
and well,
Beautiful. Well, we have another studio question. Hello, what is your name and where are you from?
Hello, my name is Tessa Langevin, and I'm from Pensacola, Florida. And I'm the oldest of 7, and I grew up with my mom always teaching me about the saints and telling me all the stories, especially about Fatima. And I always really, really just looked up to just how brave she was and what it must have took for her to go through and do the things she did. And well, my question is about the miracles. If you had seen any miracles firsthand at Fatima, and tell us what you thought of them and how they affected you spiritually. And just...
Very good. So the miracles, of course, are a big part of the story of Lourdes, and we know miracles have always accompanied the preaching of the gospel. And Lourdes is a place where people have received remarkable cures. Maybe you could talk about that. Have you experienced that, or do you know of recent miracles that have taken place in Lourdes?
yes, during this year, 2 miracles were officially recognized. 2 Italians, pilgrim from Italy, but we have investigation for other miracles persons. That's very long investigation to declare a miracle, because we have 3 steps of investigation. An investigation with the bureau, the medical bureau in
Medical
Lourdes,
Bureau.
And then we have another step with an international committee with professors from different countries, professor of medicine.
Mhm.
And then when the medicine declare that a care is unexplicable,
Mhm.
we can't explain
Yes.
it. So the bishop can ask for a third investigation and declare the miracle. But it's very long.
Wow.
But you have a lot of persons who are cared in Lourdes.
Mhm.
It's very impressive.
Some 7,000, I read, have claimed to have received cures there. But you're saying to be officially approved as a recognized miracle, it's a very lengthy process, and it's a whole medical bureau that
Yes.
investigates that, then an international group.
Mm.
And then if they say there's no medical explanation for this cure,
Yes.
then they will present that information to the bishop. Then he determines whether he would declare that it is miraculous.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because it is a part of medicine to say just we can't explain
Right.
how we are cured. And then it is a part of the church to say, well, we saw in the face of the person, in the Christian life of the person, something different. And so we can speak of miracle if you have the both, you know.
Mhm.
But that's why we have just 69 miracles declared,
Mhm.
officially declared. But we know that you have a lot of persons who were cared in Lourdes.
Mhm. So the miracle, it's important because, as I said, the miracles confirm our faith in what we believe, but it's not really the essential message of Lourdes, is it? You're saying some of the more important lessons are living out our Christian life.
Yes, yes. And the miracles are there, like in the Gospel, to confirm us in the faith.
Mhm.
But we don't go to Lourdes just to see a miracle
Yes.
or to benefit of a miracle. Because the most important is our eternal life. It's a true life
Yes.
that God gives us. And that's why we are in Lourdes, to be strengthened in the faith, in the Christian faith.
And it often will strengthen the faith of non-believers. One of my favorite books that I've read was about Dr. Alexis Carrel,
Oh, yes.
who wrote a book, The Voyage to Lourdes, and he went there very much as a skeptic, but he was accompanying a young woman who had advanced tuberculosis, and they weren't even sure she'd survive the trip. And he was saying to a priest, he said, you know, the only way I could believe in these miracles is if I actually saw this girl healed, because she was so advanced in tuberculosis and close to death. Well, that's a challenge, you know, that
Yes.
God often answers. And in fact, he said, I'll become a monk if she's healed.
Oh.
Well, you know the rest of the story. So she was healed right before his eyes. He saw her distended abdomen descend, and she completely recovered her health. And so it confirmed him and strengthened him in his faith. Thank you so much, Bishop, for
Thank you,
being here.
Father.
This time has gone very quickly. And all the best in all the places you're going to be visiting here in the United States.
Thank you. And I pray for all the watchers here today. I will pray for you, pray for your community. Thank you very much for welcoming us.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining us on this wonderful conversation about Lourdes in France, which confirms the truths of our faith. And it's really a place of inner healing if you have the opportunity to go, and to go as a volunteer. It could be a wonderful experience for you as well. We love to have pilgrim groups come here too. So we're very happy to have the Canadian and Delaware groups and all of the other people who just passed through here. It's a wonderful place to pray, to just get away. We have confessions here too every day, and the opportunity to receive the sacraments, and we have a healing service somewhat similar to what they have at Lourdes, so we invite you to come. And please remember that this network is brought to you by you, that the guests that we have, like Bishop Brouwet, are brought to you by your generosity, so please do continue to help us. And Bishop, could you grant a blessing to our television audience? Could you impart your blessing?
Yes. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus.
Amen.